Welcome. You have entered the realm of 1111 Talk Radio. Your host is Simran. It's time to discover your own language with the universe. Empower yourself, broaden your mind, open your heart, and discover who you are. Now, here's your host, Simran.
Hello and welcome on this crisp November day to another exciting episode of 1111 Talk Radio. I hope you had a beautiful new moon and that you opened yourself to all types of creativity. This one's a lot about introspection and deep diving and really getting clear on grounding ourselves in our body of who we are and our purpose and our expansion. With that, oftentimes the blocks and the obstacles that appear can be anything from physical to emotional, mental, spiritual, even financial. And that can lead us down many different rabbit holes or create places of distraction that we don't stay purposeful and in tune with exactly the direction that our soul and our identity is desiring to go. Today's show is to help you understand how you might shift that, how you might actually have a profound shift in many different areas, because feeling stuck can sometimes be very challenging and hard. And truly, the only way out is through, but it doesn't have to be hard. Sometimes we can find different modalities and different practitioners and methods that assist us in getting to an endpoint a little bit faster. It doesn't mean that we don't have to do the work, but it does mean that we end up tapping into places, times, events, and areas that otherwise we might not have been privy to because they've been so subconscious. That is one of the biggest issues. We are unconscious of what we're unconscious about. And so it's huge when we find someone that can really look at and point out where the areas are. I know in my own healing journey, so much of what has come through my body has been generational. It has been in my physiology. It has been the type of thing that I could sense the energies, I could sense the indicators of twinges and pain and different things like that. And yet, there's not a conscious way of knowing that it might have stemmed back to 7 generations behind me or 14 generations behind me. And that's a really powerful thing to understand, that we're not only carrying things forward, but that we are that pivot point, that profound shift point of our lineages in shifting that for those to come after us. So today, whether you have migraine headaches and neck pain and back pain, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, painful memories, loneliness, anxiety, relationship struggles, panic attacks, PTSD, regardless of what you're going through and whether it relates to you personally, whether it relates to your career, your finances, or what you desire in love, I think this show is going to be interesting for you. My guest today is Lisa Francolini, and she is a practitioner of the body code. She is a longtime practitioner of acupuncture and Chinese medicine and a Chinese herbalist, and she is quite wise in all of these areas of energy medicine, the physiology, the structure, the meridians, all of these types of things, and now also supports individuals in tapping into the knowledge base of imbalances or things that can go wrong in your body, given your subconscious mind holds those things inside. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you, Lisa, to 1111 Talk Radio.
Simran, thank you so much. Thank you for that introduction, and I am thrilled to be with you this morning.
Well, I'm excited to have you on. I know that I truly believe in who you are and in your work, especially in witnessing how you have worked with my own son and some of the shifts and changes that he had, particularly as we tapped into things that were emotional energies carried through from me, emotional energies carried through from the maternal lineages behind me up to 14 generations. Those are things that I could have never, or he could have never possibly tapped into on his own. And that's why I believe this is so powerful, because those types of things can affect physical pain or financial pain or even life pain. Could you talk a little bit about what the body code is and the expansive realms of life that it could possibly touch for individuals that are listening?
Certainly. So the body code is a process, essentially. And I'm very grateful to Dr. Brad Nelson, who authored the body code and the body code. It's just pioneering work, and he trains practitioners like myself to practice in the world. I often call it, we're the boots on the ground that are helping people. And really the premise behind it is that there are so many conditions, actually partially or wholly, a result of trapped emotions. And the emotions come from the experiences that we have in life. And they then, so we experience something, and it's always, what we're experiencing outside of us that affects internally. And it can be a small trauma, a large trauma. Sometimes it's just what someone says to us. And these situations then create thoughts, and they create emotions, and they get trapped in the body. And generally speaking, the body and the mind have a natural way of allowing things to release. But when they're egregious enough, or we feel they're egregious enough to us, they actually will stay with us, and they go deeper. And we have, my experience of the body code is that we have found emotions, and as you're referring to generational, we call them inherited emotions, that are, that get blocked in, the pancreas, and get blocked in the pericardium, the physiology of us, and the effect that has. So when I work with someone, we're looking at and looking for what's the trapped emotion or experience in the body, where it lies, and then shifting that. And that's a kind of an overall view of it. And there's a process that we use to do that. And
it's really powerful because many years ago, Louise Hay wrote work that really illustrated that when we do have any type of physical issue, and she particularly wrote books about the physical issues of the body, that they do have this emotional cause. They do have this certain underlying belief system that we hold. And so what you're saying, I'm sure, resonates so true to much of my audience in terms of much of the past books and information that's out there about health and healing. What's really interesting about what you're saying is that we can really tap into these emotional energies in a different way and probably get to the source in a much different way than sometimes all of the psychotherapy or all of the other different paths that sometimes people end up on a scenic route taking. Is that what you're saying?
It is true. It's true. It's what I'm saying. You have to remember, I think it's about the it's people understanding, like, look, your thoughts and your emotions have an impact on you. I think for many years we call it stress, and now we're finding, and years ago when I was first in practice, so I've been in practice for almost 30 years, I found that, we would couch everything as stress. And now we're at a place in our evolving lives that say, no, there is this impact on the body. And it stems from the thoughts and the emotions and what happens to us, like on a day-to-day basis. It's kind of like the effect of living. And if something affects us really strong, we have really strong reactions. It goes somewhere in the body. I think that if I look at, we talk about Louise Hay, who's very pioneering in, the effect of emotions and correlating it to different parts of the body. And I look at the work that Gabor Mate is doing, where he says, the more we learn, the more we realize that our health is a complex consequence of our relationships, personal and social, and it ends up being in the body. The body and the brain systems are designed to process emotions intimately. And when they can't, they go somewhere. And that's where I see people getting stopped or stuck and not unable to really move forward. And life is about living. This is, my whole philosophy. If I had to couch it, I'd say, we're talking about emotional health affecting your physical health and how it impacts your life. So becoming aware of our emotions and the reactions that we've had in the past, navigating those energies that drive them, and then learning to respond to new triggering events with a much greater awareness. And that's the whole process that we're looking for folks. Can we move you from one place to where you really want to be?
I think now more than ever, there are so many stressors, and not just our environmental stressors or our typical work and relationship stressors, but we've got the media that's stressing us. We have, these different impending things that are coming up. We've got politics, we've got healthcare, we've got a pandemic that we just came through. There's all these things that add stress. And you talked about Gabor Mate's work, which is all around trauma. And I believe we all have trauma. We've carried it probably from early childhood without even realizing that we've been traumatized. But to give an example to someone, let's say they're watching the news and they're seeing stuff that's going on, and all of a sudden they have this really intense left shoulder pain that kind of comes out of nowhere, and it lingers and it won't let go. Are you talking about there could be a personal or a social or a global issue that literally could trigger something that is then a memory in the mind of an emotional cause or thought that took place earlier?
Yes, indeed. Of course, one of the first things, and everything's about choice with me, but one of the first things I tell my patients is to stop watching the news because it does have an impact on us. So I think let me unwind the question just a little bit. It's very important to understand that there's a center of awareness in each of us that I find we get to when we begin doing the body code, because we're talking about, what's happened to an individual anywhere from the time they were conceived to generations of impact. And it's important to understand that awareness is like most essential to our growth. We respond because there's the outside of us, right? So that's all the media, that's all that's happening, that's all that's around us. It's always been around us. It will always be around us. The idea is to work within ourselves to clear what's already kind of stuck, as I say, and then to be able to move that. But one of the fundamental things that happens, Simran, is that when we begin doing this work, because it is an inner work, we then have a higher level of awareness. So then that person that's watching the news that feels the pain then starts to be able to go inside themselves and say, wait a minute, there was something from what I saw that triggered the shoulder pain. What can I do to shift that? So that's like right in the moment. And this is where we lead people to go, clearing enough things, identifying enough trauma, situations, experiences from way back when. Then in present time, it's easier to understand what's happening to you. I'll try to give you an example. I do a lot of body codes. I have a lot of body codes done on myself because I love the work and I love it processing very quickly. And I have found over the last few years with doing all my work, and I do a lot of inner work. So when I talk about inner work, and we can address that later, but I do a lot of meditating and writing and all kinds of things to keep me present to myself. Okay. So I had a friend and a patient of mine just have a tragic death a few weeks ago. And what I noticed was that I felt the reaction, I felt the sadness, the overwhelm, the shock, all of that, and worked within myself about that. I can't control what happened. It is now my job to understand who I'm going to be in that situation. And the thoughts were, I'm never going to be happy again. This has made me so sad, and on and on. And then as I was doing my work, I figured out that this is a moment in time. Be present to how you actually feel, which was horrible, to be honest with you. And then within a few days, I started to notice that I still had little points of joy in me. And I really credit that to all the work that I've done in the body code of moving the things that I've been sad about most of my life. So they were, I don't want to say no longer there because there's always something there, but there were less of them. So what that new trauma or trigger did not have anything to grab onto, and I was able to process through it. Now I'm still sad about it. I still miss her very much, and I will for as long as I do. But I also recognize that I can move on in my life. And I will tell you that 2 or 3 years ago, I'm not sure that would have been the case for me. So that's the power of doing the work, and the stimulus from the outside affecting us inside, and then how we're able to navigate it, which becomes important. And for me is an important process of the work I do with people, because I always give my clients heart work, as we call it. It's really homework, because my role with them is to identify what's trapped in their body, to help move that, and then position them in a way that they can move forward and navigate on their own when the next trauma, situation, stimuli comes to them. So it's the sustainability that I'm looking for people.
I truly believe that our life experiences serve us, that they show up in the moments where we are to bring attention to a specific experience or energy or feeling that's in our body. And oftentimes, because we live in this very fast-paced world, it's easy to dismiss those moments. It's easy to push aside those feelings or deny what's actually happening. Along with that fast-paced world, everyone wants a quick fix. They want to do it very fast. They want to know that they found the miracle cure, that they're going to be healed in an instant. And that's probably a question on a lot of people's minds. Is this a shift that takes place in the moment, in an instant, and something is healed? Or is this something that over time unfolds?
It's a little bit of both. You're shifting in the moment. So when you identify something that we forgot or we thought we had handled, I often will have people to say, well, I thought I had worked that out. But no, it's happened to be lodged in your stomach, which is why you're having digestive issues, and was triggered by something more recent. So all of that comes into play. And being able to shift that creates an understanding. And it then also requires us to do some inner work so that the next stimuli, issue, whatever from the outside comes in, we have a better way of dealing with it. And I can't emphasize that enough. So in the moment, when we shift something, when we identify and shift it, I will often ask the individual who's I'm working with, do you feel that shift in your body? And they will tell me. They will tell me exactly what they feel. And we're always looking for a person's physiologically to be lighter in it. And when they're not, we just keep moving forward until they are. And it's remarkable. I hope I'm answering your question.
Yeah, that's great because
it's because there's this understanding. It's like, oh my goodness, and the time that it takes. I probably would, when we know something, that knowing, you walk through that door and you can't go back. You know it. And so when it comes to people's, their consciousness, that, they'll sit with me and they'll say, oh, wow, I didn't remember that. And then we still may do a little more work to get to where they want to get to. So let me make it a little more concrete. So can I share a case that
yes,
with you
please
that
do.
may be helpful? So I had a young fella, wonderful man, 29, lost confidence in himself, feeling depressed, very stuck, otherwise very optimistic individual, and just a really good human being. And he came because this was occurring, but it really manifested in holding him back, looking for other jobs. So he came to see me. We began the body code, and we found that we had a heart wall. And so he's 29, and the heart wall went back to age 15 when his parents started their divorce. So immediately that created a stress and a trauma for him. So we're going through a heart wall, and I should probably explain that most of us have heart walls. Heart walls are part of the emotion code and the body code, and heart wall is usually formed when there's a trauma, and it's egregious enough that the heart throws up this protective wall, and it's designed to do that, protect us. It keeps things out, but it also keeps things in, and it generally doesn't go away on its own. So I often deal with folks, their heart wall, in some cases first, and that clears up a lot of energy that's been trapped in the body. So we're going through, and the divorce was an issue for him, and then his insecurities about relationships that he had, all impacting each other. We went down this whole list for him, and then finally clearing the heart wall. It was great. Felt better. Was amazed. And then he finds a job. Even better. This is what he came to be finding better. But here's the caveat. In order for him to start his position, he's got to fly to Georgia. He happens to live in Portland. And he's terrified of flying, and he can't get on a plane. Okay, so you have someone that comes to me, and they're moving where they want to, and then boy, they get stopped again. And so I said, well, let's I'm gonna do the best I can. Let's clear this issue. So we began, and he had a memory field that was very strong. He was 11, and it was the first time that he flew, and the plane had a lot of turbulence and was stormy, and he panicked. And his parents were sitting on either side of him, and they said, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. And that never left him. From that, we cleared that what was trapped in that, the emotions that were trapped in that one experience were fear, terror, panic, and being unsupported. So we cleared all of those. He's going to do the best he can, try to get on that plane. And I get a text from him that he made it to Georgia and he never felt better. Like, that's life-changing.
That's life-changing. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, to move from that
So
type of
how
experience.
fast, how fast, I mean, the process tends to be organic, but you start to identify things and you start to move those. And it feels miraculous, but it's a process.
Well, I love
Really,
what you say that choice is always a part of the equation.
Always.
And you also say that suffering is optional. And I think that that's the place that many individuals don't realize how they drag on their suffering when there can be a solution.
Yes. Simran, one of the things that I used to say, and I think you said it during the introduction, was, the only way out is through. And now what I tell myself and everybody else that will listen is that the only way out is in. We must go inside. And whether you are working with me to go inside for the body code, or you're working with a therapist to do work inside, or you're doing and you're engaged in the tools that either I give or you pick up, it's inside. It's inside. And that's powerful, because my understanding or my seeing is that when we're in trauma, or when we've experienced trauma, and I think you're right, we've done it from time we're born, in some way, shape, or form, is that the first thing that happens is we disconnect from ourselves. And once we do that, we lose our seat of our own power. And so many times in my body codes, my emotion codes, one of the things that we focus on, and there's always a focus to what we're doing, because we're asking the body to identify what needs to be shifted based on where we want to be. Not where we are, but where we want to be. And so we choose a focus, and I help people craft the focus. And second to every focus is self-connection, the love of the self.
Lisa Francolini treats patients with all kinds of chronic physical and emotional pain. She understands the flow of energy in the body, and her commitment remains to help people eliminate suffering and lead enriched lives. For almost 3 decades, Lisa Francolini of profound-shifts.com has been a successful licensed acupuncturist and Chinese herbalist. Several years ago, she became certified as an emotion code practitioner and a body code practitioner, bringing that to her many healing modalities. She has entered this field of healing because her passion and commitment to being a contribution to the world by easing suffering and helping people transform their pain and trauma exponentially. She does fulfill this calling. 1111 Talk Radio is offering listeners an opportunity to experience a complimentary consult and body code session in how it can help you directly from Lisa Francolini. So if you want to know more and sign up for that complimentary consult, you can go to profound-shifts.com. That's profound-shifts with an S.com, or you can call to book the session, 503-246-0103. That's 503-246-0103. These sessions can be done remotely as well as in person. So no matter where you are in the world, you can sign up and find out more. We'll be right back with Lisa Francolini and Profound Shifts.
Follow Voice America at Facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
Have you seen 1111? Do you wonder why certain numbers keep showing up in your life? 11, 111, 22, 33, 444. People all over the world are seeing 1111 and learning the language of universal communication. Subscribe to 1111 Magazine today. www.1111mag.com. 1111 Magazine is a bi-monthly print publication that offers a rich, multi-sensory experience. As you engage with experts and topics of consciousness, become enlightened, empowered, and energized, so you live a passionate and authentic life of conscious choices. 1111 Magazine, a daily staple for lifting the mindset, discovering the heart, and stepping into conscious living. 1111 Magazine. Order now at www.1111mag.com. 1111mag.com.
Do you want more? More joy, more abundance, more power and presence? How would it feel to have more loving relationships, more empowered community, greater fulfillment, and life purpose? The 1111 Mastermind community inspires, empowers, guides, and supports transformation. Shift your mind, expand your heart, deepen insights, let go and chart a new course, dream a new dream. The 1111 Mastermind community is an online portal for personal transformation and soulful expansion. Go to courses.1111mag.com. That's courses.1111mag.com. Change begins with you. Let it be simple, convenient, and transformative. The time is now. Step through the 1111 gateway. Courses.1111mag.com.
Live up to your fullest potential. This is the Voice America Empowerment Channel.
You are listening to 1111 Talk Radio. Simran is an award-winning author, publisher of 1111 Magazine, powerful speaker of wisdom, and a life mentor. Find out more at IamSimran.com. Now, back to 1111 Talk Radio.
Before we get back to Lisa and profound shifts in learning how you can have a session of the body code and start your healing journey, I want to mention my new trilogy. Definitely pick up a set of that. These are manuals of the soul. They will give you the opportunity to have a very gentle and slow-paced and present experience of yourself. The 3 books comprise you. They are the 3 aspects of you. Living the 7 blessings of human experience is your personality, your identity, walking in the world, and this continuous cycle of alternative blessings that we all will encounter over and over again, as well as how to rise above them so that you can transcend them into a higher octave of yourself. The second book is Being, the 7 Illusions that Derail Personal Power, Purpose, and Peace. This book introduces you to all of the unconscious and subconscious aspects of yourself, not just the shadow, but you go into the animal part of you, which very much has to do with the physiology. You go into the monster part of you, the part of you that really helps to create some of the things that are going on in our world. And then you also meet your demons in a way that you can now finally embrace and love all these aspects and transmute these energies. The final book is about tapping into and re-embracing your humanity. It is knowing the 7 human expressions of grace. And this is about opening up to your light body, truly feeling all that humanity is, and allowing yourself to experience it with the full embrace of devotion, self-care, and kindness. Get your copies of these, and you can read them along with any other book. You can read them straight through, or you can use them as an oracle. I invite you to explore. My guest today is Lisa Francolini, and we are talking about the body code. And right now you have a wonderful opportunity to experience a complimentary body code consult and mini session in which you can get an understanding of how the body code can directly help you. This would be with Lisa Francolini. So if you want to know more about that or go ahead and sign up, go to profound-shifts.com or call to book your session 503-246-0103. Again, the body code is a knowledge base of imbalances or things that can go wrong in your body. It gives your subconscious mind a way to reveal the true underlying causes of ailments, whether those imbalances have combined to create symptoms or not. This could be thought of as a table of contents for the things your subconscious mind is tracking. So no matter what you're dealing with, things can change. Maybe you're exhausted from unrelenting physical pain. Maybe you're finding yourself feeling easily triggered or emotionally drained. Perhaps your relationships are stressful and unfulfilling, or it might be that you're dealing with a diagnosis that seems hopeless. No matter what your issue is, resolution and healing are possible. And as Lisa says, the only way through is in. I want to go back, Lisa, to a couple of things that you said in regard to the heart wall and moving through these types of things. It only makes sense that we all create these barriers in our heart from wounding. And you mentioned panic in that last scenario. You mentioned not being acknowledged, which is something that I imagine happens often in childhood. How do things like this then translate into dis-ease, whether it is physical, financial, or relational?
We have to remember that the wall, in this case, the heart wall, is formed because of experience. So something happened, whatever the triggering situation was or the emotion. And we ought to remember, so something has taken place. Everything that happens after that, if it builds resonance with that experience, that doesn't necessarily get processed out either. So then you're building this, okay? So remember that it's very common to find ourselves having stress response to a current situation or experience that has occurred from a past traumatic experience. And the emotions triggered in one situation will often reappear in another experience. So as you start to take that wall down, then you begin to create a freedom physiologically, emotionally, in your thoughts. So I can give you another case where I have a client with chronic pain for 10 years, depression, and insecurity. Those are the things she wanted to work on. And she's 47. And her heart wall was formed when she was 35. And there are two things that were occurring in her life. One, she was undergoing a divorce, which her husband did not want. So there's a lot of contention with that. And she had a stepdaughter that was in a motor vehicle accident. So both of those things together created this heart wall. Well, as we started to unwind it, we found that one of the things that was in the heart wall was an emotion of anger when she was 24. 24. And so that was there. It became part of the heart wall. And two things were happening at that point. She was in a volatile relationship, fairly abusive. And her daughter, I'm sorry, not her daughter, but she, my client, got a DUI and was banned from helping her daughter at her school for a time. So they're not the same situation, but they're very similar. And that anger, is very steeped in her still. Now, here's the thing because I'm, an acupuncturist, anger is an emotion of the liver. So we're having this discussion, we're clearing this. And after we clear the anger, she said, well, I need to tell you that I just got some lab results from my doctor and my liver enzymes are off. No, really? Okay. So this is what we start to unwind and then shift.
That's so true, because we create these experiences and we will always have echoes of experiences come after that. That's why you see people end up in a relationship with the same kind of person but a different face, or repeatedly have the same type of scenario. So there's like a memory that's going on inside that is creating the attraction of these types of experiences, but it's all self-generated by this unconscious, I guess, way of being or emotions or thoughts that are taking place. You said something earlier in the show about yourself and the work that you were doing and noticing these moments of joy despite the grief that you were going through at the loss of your friend. And ultimately, is that what the body code is about? Tapping into the joy, the prosperity, the abundance, the ease that we can have in life, even though we think so many times we're trying to approach something for the reasons of healing or getting rid of. It's it seems like it's really more about finding our own freedom and ease within our own body and experience.
Oftentimes, for folks, that is really what's important. And I think, just in general, if you take a poll and ask people what they want in their lives, the two things that generally come up are happiness and joy and freedom. That's very, very common. And one of the things, and because I know that, and I know that from, I deal with a lot of folks, particularly in my acupuncture practice, and they're in pain. And, the two things they want to know is, when am I going to get out of this pain? How long is this going to really take? And am I able to do what I want to do again? Those are the two very common, like outcomes. Again, the whole thing is, let's move this. And one of the things, because I know that, Simran, when I had to figure out how I was going to implement the body code in my practice, I practice a certain way. I practice the body code a certain way. The process is the same, and anybody that's been trained, will be following the process. But the element for me, and I think I touched on this in the beginning, really is to be able to give people heart work to connect to themselves, because the more connected to ourselves, we will find joy. And I've seen this time and time again. And to be able to deal with stimuli, situations, experiences that happened in current time, which again, if you're not holding on to them, you're going to be a lot happier, and you're going to feel, a lot freer. And so it becomes so much more powerful in our connection, to move through emotions that don't feel so good. And that's just a natural, occurrence. The only beings that I know that don't have any emotions are dead people. We're all going to experience them. Excuse me. And there's a gamut of emotions. I tend to not want to do spiritual bypass and pretend, I'm a practitioner. I should be okay. I shouldn't, I should be stoic. I shouldn't, cry at the death of a friend. I should, or a patient, or, that's not, I don't believe in that. I believe that we feel exactly what we need to feel, and it feels uncomfortable in the moment. And we know that it's okay to have that discomfort, because it's in the moment. Because then we have tools where we meditate, where we connect to ourselves, where we write, where we read, where we listen to radio shows like yours that say, no, there's hope in the world. And then we move from there. So
that's beautiful, because individuals will get that support through the body code system, but then they have the tools to walk away with, to then support themselves additionally when certain things are repeated or come back up. I want to ask you... It's my whole goal
for sustainability for folks, to be sustainable in your life, to choose. And when we're all at the behest of reacting over and over again, that doesn't provide choice. And when we don't see choice, we don't see possibility. Or when we don't see possibility, we don't do choice. And that, for me, is where people really shine, where they get that I can live in possibility. And I know that there's going to be things that are going to, doing the body code never means that you're never going to feel any bad thing. That's crazy. This is life. This is all part of life. What it means, though, is that there's possibility. I know that there's going to be things that are going to happen. I know that there's possibilities of way different things if I look at it from a different view. And then I have the choice, always. And the fundamental thing about choice is, people will say, yes, but what if I choose wrong? Well, nobody told us that if you don't choose right or wrong, or however you're going to attach something to it, choose again. That's a full life. That's freedom. At least in my experience.
That's freedom. I'm so excited for my listeners to be able to connect to you directly and have their own understanding and experience of how this might support whatever area in their life. And I'd love to go through some of the different types of things that this can support. I know it can be anything from emotions to thoughts, but then it can affect the physical body. I know that this moves into things like heavy metals and food toxins and all these different types of things that we don't even think about can affect us. But people may wonder how this can be done virtually or remotely. Can you kind of take us through what a session is, or take us through how this body code works?
Yes. Let me address the virtual part because, when I was trained like 8-9 years ago, and we had to learn how to do the body code and be able to do it virtual as well as in person. We also, by the way, work with animals to do body code on animals. And that's one of the stipulations in our training, is that you've got to be able to do enough sessions with animals as well. So we learned to do it virtually, as I said, as well as in person. And at the time, we were doing Skype, and I had someone help me go onto Zoom, and we were doing Zoom. And really in the last 3 years, because of the pandemic, it became amazing to use this as a tool. And the fundamental thing that people get concerned about is it going to be as effective? And I will tell you, I have a lot of clients throughout the country. It is actually throughout the world now. Actually, it is extremely effective. It's the same thing. It really is. There's no difference because we're dealing with energy. How we do it is I become your proxy when it's virtual. And I've had people so skeptical, but because of logistics, they've had to do it virtual, and they love it. So either way, if you're in Portland and you want to come live, I'll see you, or in Salem or in Oregon, whatever. But virtual is really, really helpful. So just move that out of the way, not to worry. It's done. So an initial session, we begin with the body code, and we identify, where's your immune system functioning? Where are the brain messages getting to your organs? Where are the heart messages getting to your tissues? And then we identify, is there any heavy metals? Then we identify, or toxicities, as we call them. And then we will identify, the toxicity of the bacterial. And then we go through all of the organs to see what's balanced. And I can't tell you the number of times where there'll be an organ that's identified not being balanced. And when we begin going through the body code session, it will show up. Sometimes not on the first session, but sometimes on the second session. So you come in, or you're on virtual with me, we sit, we go through those processes initially, and then we choose a focus. Like, what are we going to do here? And then we ask, what's the underlying imbalance that needs to be identified to shift? And are there any associated imbalances within that? So we'll have an underlying imbalance in the stomach, but before we clear the stomach, there's an emotional component. And so we identify the emotional component, and then after that's cleared, then we clear the stomach. So it gets a little circuitous. And that's why for the consults, when you sit with me, I actually will go through the process, and the program that we use to move through the systems becomes a little more easier for folks when they have that visual stimuli.
What do you mean by proxy? When you initially said proxy, explain that a little bit, Lisa.
I get permission to actually be part of your energy in that way. And so, the process is using applied kinesiology, or commonly muscle testing. In fact, I teach my patients and clients to do the muscle testing on their own to develop that skill. And I've had folks learn the body code, learn muscle testing enough to test themselves. And then when something is so difficult, they know that they need outside help, and then they'll come back to see me. So it's actually a beautiful relationship, because I'm, again, sustainability. But the proxy is that I will actually allow me to say, Sim, can I be your proxy? And it would be yes. And then I will say, okay, so I'm going to not be myself necessarily, but I'm going to proxy for Simran. And it's worked wonderful. And I will tell you that when something gets cleared for someone, and I'm in proxy with them especially, I can feel it change in my body, and I will ask, was there a shift in you, and where was it? And I would tell you that 99% of the time, it's in the same place that I felt it. Because remember, Simran, this is energy. We're all dealing with energy, and we're all affected by energy, and we're affected by each other's energy. We saw that during the pandemic. People were behaving in ways that they never thought they would behave in. And yet, what was that about? Or you are going down the street and you're on your way to work and everything is lovely. And all of a sudden you start these thoughts that are coming through your head. Now you're just driving to work. There's got to be energy around you somewhere that's a little awry that tapped into yours. We
have just a couple of minutes left, and I want to squeeze in one last question before we have to leave.
Yeah.
And that is, you worked with my son, and when you did, what came up that one of the issues he was dealing with actually related to me. And it had a lot to do with grief and sadness, which I was going through quite a bit the last decade. Once you tapped into that, you found out that it was 15 generations back, that it was something that was being carried through. And when you cleared it in him, I felt a shift, and you said it would shift the entire, all the way back to those 15 generations. Can you quickly just give an understanding of how we carry these things through that many generations back and how we're so easily able to then shift it out?
Well, I think if you look at the world today, and we're all talking about the generational trauma, right, that we're all experiencing, and it's got a name to it, and it's out there. There is the influence of having experience, and then that moving through from your mother or your father to us, and then we behave as if that grief is ours. And then anything that looks like grief just exacerbates it. In any body of work, Simran, that I've ever done in my life, they have always said that when people start doing their work energetically, it will clear 7 generations ahead of us and 7 generations back. And there are times that it can go farther than that. And so I just experienced that. I will have people come in, have an inherited emotion from their mother, go visit their mother who's had a fixed point of view about their life or their relationship with them. And they go sit with their mother, and all of a sudden it's changed. And they're like, well, what changed? And the only thing that changed was the body code. So it's the influence of the energy. We are all influenced by energies. And
it's all energy.
It's all energy. And it's powerful, very powerful. And it triggers the thoughts, and then we're in reaction. And when you no longer wish to be in reaction, then you sit with me. And we work together, and we move that. All in service of you living a full life.
Is it time for you to experience more joy, freedom, and ease? I invite you to connect to Lisa Francolini at profound-shifts.com. Go ahead and experience a complimentary consult of the body code and find out how it might support an area in your life that you are challenged with. You can call to book a session at 503-246-0103, or you can go to their website and book it yourself, profound-shifts.com, and you'll see a lot more about Lisa there. The body code system is designed to help you decode and correct the imbalances that are the true underlying causes of your problems. It's a comprehensive knowledge base of all that can go wrong in the body, and it uses the laws of quantum physics to create balance where there's an imbalance. When these laws are used with love and intention, they enable you to navigate within the body to discover what is wrong and make the corrections that are needed to restore health. So find out more, see how you can have a profound shift. Thank you, Lisa Francolini, profound-shifts.com, for being on 1111 Talk Radio. It has been beautiful and insightful, and I'm grateful for all the work you've done with my son. Until next week, I am Simran, in love, of love, with love, and as love. Be well.
Thank you for opening your mind to a new reality, your heart to greater compassion, and your experience of aliveness with 1111 Talk Radio. Join host Simran next Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern Time to step through the gateway of conscious living here on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Remember, you are not on the journey. You are the journey.